No one came to my funeral. Not my son, not my daughter. Not even the people I spent my whole life working for. And before you try to make sense of it, no, this wasn't a mistake. There was no wrong address, no confusion about the time. I was there, sitting in the back row, watching it happen. At my age, you don't wait for the end to arrive unexpectedly. You start preparing for it, quietly, piece by piece, detail by detail. That's how I ended up in that room, a viewing room, inside a funeral home that smelled faintly of polished wood and something floral, trying too hard to feel comforting. The chairs were already set, perfectly aligned, facing forward, waiting for people who never came. The lights were dimmed, not dark, just softened enough to make everything feel respectful and distant. There was music playing too, low, careful, the kind of music that tries to fill silence without interrupting grief. But it didn't work. Because silence like that doesn't come from the room, it comes from what's missing. A man in a black suit walked over to me. Calm, professional, like he had seen this kind of thing before, just not like this, not with someone still sitting there watching their own absence take shape. He leaned slightly closer and asked, soft enough to sound respectful, "Would you like to wait a little longer?" I looked at the door, the same door I'd been watching since I sat down, closed, still unmoving. I checked the time. We had already passed the hour this was supposed to begin. For a moment, just a moment, I let myself think maybe something went wrong. Maybe they got delayed. Maybe they were on their way. Maybe they still cared enough to show up late. But nothing changed. No footsteps, no voices, no sudden movement at the door. So I shook my head slowly. No, it's okay. The truth is, this wasn't even my real funeral, not yet. Just a preview, a quiet arrangement they let me sit through so I could see how everything would look when the day actually came. I had already paid for it years ago, picked the room, the number of chairs, even the music. I thought I was being responsible, taking care of things ahead of time, saving my family from having to decide anything difficult later. Funny, isn't it? Spending your whole life trying not to be a burden, trying to make everything easier for everyone else. Only to realize you've made it so easy for no one to come at all. I kept looking at that door, not hoping, not really, just checking. Because somewhere deep down, there was still a part of me that believed someone might walk in late. But no one did. And the strangest part was, it didn't feel wrong. It didn't feel shocking. It felt familiar. I wasn't always alone. There was a time this kind of room would have been full. My son would have stood near the front, trying to look composed even if he wasn't. My daughter would have been moving around, fixing something, adjusting flowers, making sure everything felt right. They were good kids. They still are. That's the part people don't expect. They hear a story like this and assume someone must have failed. Someone must have left. Someone must have broken something important. But nothing like that ever happened to us. No shouting, no slammed doors, no moment where everything fell apart. Just life. I worked, not because I wanted to escape, not because I didn't care. I worked because that's what I believed a man was supposed to do. You show up, you provide, you make sure your family never has to worry about anything. And I did that. We had a house. Bills were paid. There was always food on the table. Birthdays had gifts. Christmas had lights. From the outside, everything looked exactly the way it should. And maybe, in a way, it was working. Just not in the way that mattered. I told myself the same thing for years. I'm doing this for them. Every late night for them. Every missed dinner for them. Every time I said, not today, for them. And the truth is, I believed it. Not partially, not as an excuse. I believed it completely. Because it sounded right. It felt responsible, like I was becoming the kind of man people respect. Present in their lives, but not in their moments. And at the time, that didn't feel like a loss. It felt temporary, like something I would fix later, when things slowed down, when work settled, when there was more time. There's always a later. Until one day, you realize it's been gone for a long time. I wasn't a bad father. I never walked away, never stopped caring. I just wasn't there as often as I could have been. And somehow, that was enough to change everything. It didn't happen all at once. There wasn't a single moment you could point to and say, that's where everything changed. It was smaller than that, quieter. The kind of moments you don't think you'll remember later. My daughter once asked me, Dad, are you coming tonight? I remember the way she said it, not demanding, not upset, just hopeful. I looked at the clock, looked at the work still waiting on my desk, and without thinking too much, I said, maybe next time. There was always a next time. My son called me once. I remember that too, because I almost didn't answer. I'm kind of busy right now. Can I call you back? I never did. Not because I didn't care, not because it didn't matter, just because something else felt more urgent in that moment. Dinner would be ready at home. I knew that. I always knew that. And still, I stayed late. Again. And no one argued with me. No one raised their voice. No one forced me to choose differently. Which made it easier to keep choosing the same way. My wife stopped asking after a while. Not suddenly. Not in a way you could notice right away. She just adjusted. there would be a plate left on the table, covered, waiting. Sometimes I'd eat it cold. Sometimes I didn't eat at all. We didn't argue. That's the part that stayed with me. Nothing ever felt serious enough to stop what I was doing. A birthday missed? Not the end of the world. A phone call ignored can always happen later. A dinner skipped just one night. That's how it works. Nothing feels big when it's happening. It's only later on, when you try to remember the last time you were really there, that something starts to feel wrong. Because you can't find that moment. You go back again and again, trying to hold on to one clear memory where you showed up the way you meant to. And there isn't one. Just a series of small decisions, all of them reasonable, all of them harmless, all of them easy to justify at the time. I thought I was postponing moments, saving them for when life slowed down, for when I had more time, more energy, more space to be present. I didn't realize I wasn't postponing anything. I was erasing them. Time didn't stop. It never does. The house stayed the same. Same walls, same furniture, same quiet corners that used to feel lived in. But the people in it changed. My kids grew up, not all at once, not in a way you could notice from one day to the next. Just gradually. Their voices got deeper. Their lives got fuller. Their time became more valuable to people who were actually there for them. They stopped asking if I was coming, stopped waiting, stopped expecting. Not out of anger, not even disappointment, just adjustment. They learned how to celebrate without me, how to make decisions without calling, how to move forward without checking if I was there to see it. And I let that happen. Because at the time, it felt easier, less pressure, less guilt. I told myself the same thing again. They're independent. That's a good thing. And it was. Just not in the way I thought. They had their own lives, jobs, families, people who needed them more than I did. And somewhere along the way, without a single clear moment marking it, I became optional. My wife, she got quieter too. Not distant, not cold, I just used to it. We stopped having long conversations, stopped sitting together without a reason, stopped noticing the silence between us. Everything became practical. And then one day, she was gone. No dramatic ending, no final speech, no moment that gave me a chance to say everything I hadn't said. Just a space in the house that didn't fill back in. After that, the calls came less often. Shorter, more careful, more polite. Hey, Dad, just checking in. I've got a meeting, but I'll call you later. Later became something I recognized very well. I would sit there with my phone in my hand, scrolling through names I used to call without thinking. and realize I didn't know who to call anymore. Not because people were gone, not because I had no one, but because I had slowly stepped out of their lives so quietly I didn't even notice when it happened. They didn't leave me. They didn't push me away. They just stopped needing me. I sat there in that quiet room, staring at chairs no one had taken. The man in the suit looked at me again. He didn't rush me, didn't try to fill the silence. He just waited, the way you do when there's nothing left to say. "Would you like to continue?" I didn't answer, not right away. I just kept looking at the door. The same door I had been watching since the beginning. The same door I told myself someone might walk through at the last minute. And for a second, just a second, I let myself believe this wasn't real, that something had gone wrong. Maybe they had the wrong time. Maybe they got delayed. Maybe they were on their way. I held on to that thought a little longer than I should have, because letting it go in it meant facing something I wasn't ready to admit. But nothing changed. No footsteps, no voices, no sound of a door opening behind me. Just that same quiet room holding its shape, like it had always been this way. And that's when it settled in. Not like a shock, not like something suddenly breaking. More like something that had been there all along, waiting for me to finally stop moving long enough to see it. Nothing went wrong. This was exactly how it was supposed to be. I thought I was waiting for them. But the truth is, they had stopped waiting for me a long time ago. And I understood why. Not because they didn't care, not because they forgot, but because for years, in ways so small I never noticed, I showed them they didn't have to. No one came, not because they didn't love me, but because I made it feel normal not to show up. I stood up slowly. My hands felt heavier than they should have, like something I'd been carrying for years had finally settled into place. I nodded at the man in the suit. "It's fine. We can stop here." And as I walked toward the door, the same door I had been watching this whole time, I realized something I wish I had understood years ago. You don't lose people all at once. You lose them in small moments, the ones you thought didn't matter. And by the time it finally does, there's no one left who's still waiting for you to come back. If there's someone you've been meaning to call, don't wait for a better moment, because it never feels urgent when it matters most. It feels small, easy to postpone, easy to miss. And one day, you'll look back and realize those were the moments that held everything together. So before life moves a little further without you, show up.